A very good evening, all of you. Welcome to yet another very interesting session of Big Bull Ki Pathshala. I hope all of you are doing fine. And as the exam season is going on, I hope your exams are also going fine. So let's go a little back to last 1 week, 1.5 weeks, and let's see what all has happened during this period. So the first thing is that the CVT exams have started. So yes, the CVT exams as usual are taking place in multiple slots over multiple days. So the exams started from 21st of May and they were officially going to go up till 31st of May, but are now supposed to be extended till 6th or 8th of June because of humongous amount of people registering themselves for the exam and willing to take the exam. So it is expected that the dates would be extended even further till 8th of June, right? So as I mentioned in the last session that we had for CVT, I told you that the admit cards for the aspirants will be available 4 days or 3 days prior to their exam. Right. So, for example, let's say that your exam is on 30th. So your admit cards should be available by 26th or 27th of May. Right? So keep a close look on the official website of NTA and SAMR to get the updated notifications. All right. For the people जिनकी CVT exams already हो चुके हैं, please do let us know in the comment section how did your exams go, what was the experience, what was the difficulty level. However, on a regular basis, we at Hitbullseye are uploading the exam analysis every day. So you can check it on our official website as well. So if you're somebody who's already appeared for the exam, please do let us know how did your exam go, what was the experience, was it the way that you thought or was it on the easier side, on the difficult side, please do let us know. Apart from CVT, IPMAT Rohtak exam took place on 20th of May, right? So IPMAT Rohtak exam is conducted to get admissions into IIM Rohtak for their integrated program and management course, also referred to as IPM. So if you're somebody who appeared for the IPMAT Rohtak exam, please do let us know in the comment section how did your exam go, what was the experience, and how good or bad do you think you're going to score in the results. Now, let's talk about the upcoming exams. We have two very, very exciting exams coming up. The first is JIPMAT, Joint Integrated Program and Management Admission Test, which is scheduled for 28th of May, that is this Sunday. Right? And the second exam is IPMAT Indore for admissions into IIM Indore and IIM Ranchi, which is scheduled for 16th of June. Now, that's the reason why we are here today, to get a 3-week strategy for IPMAT Indore. So, of course, it usually does happen that the people who appear for IPMAT Indore exam have already appeared for IPMAT Rohtak exam, right? So, if you're somebody जिसका रोहतक का एग्जाम सो गया कुछ खास अच्छा नहीं गया and they are aiming for IPMAT Indore, this is the session for you. We have a very special guest with us this evening. He himself appeared for IPMAT Indore as well as IPMAT Rohtak and converted IIM Rohtak. So he will be sharing his tips, his tricks, his journey, and the things that, of course, not me, not anybody else can understand, but a student who has been through that journey, who has experienced the entire thing, can guide you better. So he will be joining us in a short while. So these were some of the exams that are upcoming, right? So I would repeat again, this is a session, a motivational session, a strategical session for the last 3 weeks of IPMAT Indore, the preparation for the exam. So if you have any questions, any doubts about, let's say, the exam pattern, about the mocks, about what should be your strategy, what should be your mindset, how well or how much do you should focus on different sections, please feel free to post your comments in the comment section, and me and my very special guest tonight will be very, very happy to answer those questions for you. Okay, so that was all about the Gyan. Let's welcome the guest for the evening. Please welcome Mr. Sukhjot, who, like I mentioned, has qualified IPMAT Rohtak, who also appeared for IPMAT Indore and was successful in qualifying the aptitude round for the same. So hi Sukhjot, how are you doing?
Hi, ma'am. Good evening. I'm doing good. Excited to be here.
It's our privilege to have you with us. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good. It's a good chance to talk to the aspirants and get to know, what situation they are in right now. And always a good chance to motivate them.
Right, that's always the motive of Big Bull Ki Pathshala. We do invite students who have been through the same journey, who have been associated with Hitbullseye in some way or the other, right?
Yeah.
And to help all those aspirants out there, jinke bahut questions hai, but they don't know the way to answer those questions. So we are here to
Yeah.
help them out, right? So Sukhjot, let's begin with a quick introduction. Please tell our audiences something about yourself.
All right. Good evening to everybody who's watching this. I am Sukhjot Singh, and as ma'am has already told you, I'm currently studying in IIM Rohtak. I am almost completed my first year. I'll soon be entering my second year. I also appeared for IPMAT Indore and all these other entrance tests as well. I was not able to convert the interview round of IIM Indore. Yeah, during my 11th and 12th, I was an engineering student, PCM student, and I appeared for JEE mains as well. I did get some of the engineering colleges, but because I felt that my passion aligned more with management, I decided to go for this course.
Right. So, Sukhjot, where are you from?
So I'm currently staying in Chandigarh. I was born in Chandigarh as well, but I haven't stayed here during the majority part of my life. My schooling
Okay.
majorly was done from Bombay.
Oh, that's interesting. Which
Yeah.
school in Bombay?
So my 10th was done from Lakshadam High School,
Okay.
and my 12th was done from MKVV.
Okay, right. So all the CBSE both of these exam
No, no,
school.
no. So till 10th, I was an ICSE student, and 11th and 12th, I shifted to CBSE because NCRT is usually, more compatible with JEE.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so this is a very common question amongst people in 11th and 12th class. Is NCRT or CBSE more difficult or ICSE more difficult? Which board is more competitive?
I mean, I never appeared for ISC in 11th and 12th, so I don't know. Nobody can answer that question properly. But yeah, I'd say the English really does make. I mean, you've heard this. There's a very cliche that ICSE guys have a better English. It's a bit true. They usually, yeah. I mean, I'm not boasting,
Just
but
to
yeah,
mind you, I am from CBSE. Just to mind
yeah.
you.
No, no. It is okay. So the literature that Shakespeare really does make a difference. That's all I'll say.
True, that's true. Shakespeare is then Shakespeare only.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So, tell us a little bit about your family background.
All right. So both of my parents are working. My mother is working as a teacher, and she's been working for the past 15 years as a teacher. And
Oh,
my father is in a service sector. He goes to a job, and we have usually shifted around the country due to his job. I have a younger brother as well, who's
mhm.
currently preparing for CLAT with Hitbullseye only. I don't know
Okay,
if you're aware of that. Yeah. He's in 11th right. He's in 12th right now. He just entered 12th.
okay, right. So, both you brothers have very different aspirations, no? One in
Yeah.
management, one in law.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, however, you did mention about it a little briefly. I would want to elaborate, would want you to elaborate. Why did you want to pursue a career in management? Why did you appear for the IPM entrances?
So somewhere in my heart, I always knew that, my area of interest or my future aspirations always lied in the managerial sector. So even if I would have gone for engineering, I would probably still have given CAT and appeared, tried to go for an IIM. So I thought this was a really good opportunity for me. And the biggest point for me was the syllabus. I really liked the structure, the curriculum, what they were teaching. It really aligned with what I wanted to study.
Right.
I had very varying interests. I wanted to study sociology and mathematics at the same time, and you cannot
Okay.
get that anywhere else. Yeah.
Right. Right. That's a weird combination, sociology and the other one.
Yeah. It's just an
Right.
example. Yeah. But yeah.
Okay, great, great. So, how did you come to know about the IPM, the course, as well as the entrances? Was it from somebody mutual, or did you read about it somewhere? What was the source of information for you?
So, yeah. I was just scrolling the web, I think Quora one day when I came across IIM Indore. So there's one famous, very professor who's active on Quora, I think. Or,
Okay,
and then I discovered few of these channels on YouTube and I got to know more. Yeah.
right.
That's how I came to know.
Right, because the reason why I asked this question is because not a lot of people know about this course. Like over the period that I have been associated with the entrances and everything, and I've been speaking with people, now it has become more global. Earlier, a lot
Yeah.
of people did not know about this course, right? So I just wanted to know what was your source of information.
Yeah. Yeah, I think these past few years it has really increased the knowledge among the masses because earlier it was only IIM Indore. Now you've got Rohtak, Ranchi,
Yeah.
IPMAT, and a lot of these other colleges as well. NALSA
Mhm.
and IIFT. All of these are
Mhm.
starting their programs. The number of
Mhm.
seats are increasing. So more people are taking interest.
True, true. Okay, so what stream did you have in your 12th class?
I was a PCM student.
PC. Oh my God, some PCM. So you switched to management. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So if you don't mind me asking, and if you don't mind telling here,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
was the percentage in the 12th class?
I got 12th. I scored 88.6%.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, that's really great. Okay, so apart from IPMAT Rohtak and IPMAT Indore, were there any other entrances that you appeared for that you were trying or you practiced for or prepared for?
As far as IPMAT goes, I only gave Indore and Rohtak. I
Mm-hmm.
also paid for Christ University and some of the other engineering exams. You've got BITSAT, JEE, VIT. I gave
Right,
the
right,
engineering exams as well. Yeah.
right. So is the syllabus same for all of these entrances?
For the engineering or these
All of
entrances?
them? Yeah, all together.
No, no, no. So the engineering year usually have very different syllabus. Obviously, you don't
Mm-hmm.
have any of English or anything of that sort. It's
Mm-hmm.
completely based on 11th and 12th PCM.
Okay.
As far as IPMAT prep goes, the main difference between Indore and Rohtak is obviously, as most of you might be aware, it's the higher maths. Indore
Mm-hmm.
usually has a much tougher math sections and a lot
Okay.
more concepts from 11th and 12th.
Okay. Right, right. Okay. So before I go ahead and I talk about the sections, I would want to brief my audiences about the exam pattern for all these three exams. Because if there's somebody who's heard of the exam for the very first time, is not
Yeah.
really aware about it, so just for them, so that you know the context of the conversation. So if I talk about the exam pattern for IPMAT in which is for admissions into IIM Indore and IIM Ranchi, so you have three sections. The first two sections are of quant, that is math. One of those sections is subjective, the other is objective. And the third section is of verbal ability, that's English. So that's your pattern for IPMAT Indore. If I talk about IPMAT Rohtak and JIPMAT, your exam pattern is pretty much similar. You have three sections again. You have quant, you have logical reasoning, and you have English. So on a wider surface, if I say, a difference between IPMAT Rohtak and IPMAT Indore is that Indore does not have logical reasoning and Rohtak has logical reasoning. That's the only difference. Apart from that is, of course, for all of these exams, you get higher math. That means you are supposed to prepare for the math of your 11th and 12th class. As for other entrances, if I talk about other management exams, for example, SET for Symbiosis or NPAT for Nasi Munche, they do not have higher math. They have math till 10th standard only. Okay, so my next question to you, Sukhjot, would be how did you balance your preparations for the board exams, of course, and for these entrances? What was the strategy behind it?
So our year was a bit unique. I don't think we had two terms. I don't think these guys have two terms, right? We
Okay.
had two board exams. They split the portion in half due to COVID. So our year was
Okay.
a bit different. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the first term was objective, and that happened at the end of December. So
Mm-hmm.
that was completely different. At that time, I hadn't even started properly preparing for IPMAT. So
Mm-hmm.
that did not matter to me that much particularly. But I think if you studied thoroughly in your 11th and 12th, and if you're able to give enough time just before the boards, I think it
Mm-hmm.
should be enough to handle it. There's
Right.
not much difficulty. You
Right.
can actually divide your day.
Right.
So, for
And
example, yeah,
yeah, please go ahead.
yeah. So, like if you come back from school, right, you can decide, okay, I'll give 2 hours a day, every day to IPMAT. The
Mhm.
consistency is the key here. You should be able to willing to put in efforts every single day.
Mhm. Mhm. Consistency is basically a key for any competitive exam,
Yeah.
right? One of the major mindset that I think people have, or the thing that students do not understand, Subjot, is that your strategy to prepare for a board exam is very different to what your strategy should be for an entrance test, because there it
Yeah.
is a national level test. You have people from all around the country competing for the limited amount of seats that they have. It's very
Yeah.
different. The strategy has to be very different to your board exams for a couple of reasons, of course. First of all, because all these exams have negative marking, right?
Yeah.
So your mindset has to be of that way. Second, these exams are in the MCQ format, whereas your boards, they are subjective. You're writing and writing and writing. Here
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
have four choices. And
Yeah.
so your strategy has to be that way. right? And then third is, of course, your syllabus is absolutely different from what you have studied in your 11th and 12th class, even for the matter of English, right? You would agree with me, Sukhjot,
Yeah,
the English that you have for all these entrances, no grammatically focused. Whereas
yeah,
what you
yeah,
study in your 11th and 12th class is all literature, stories,
yeah,
and things. So the strategy has to be very different. And that is something I think a very common mistake that students make is that they have that 11th hour think about the exams. You know, कि एक
yeah.
रात पहले पढ़ के कर लेंगे हम लोग how we
Yeah.
do for boards. It's not the same for entrances. You can't qualify an entrance like that, right?
True.
And there are people who do. I'm pretty sure आपके time पे CVT exam नहीं था, right?
No, we had.
You had
It started with our year. It started with our year.
okay, but you did not appear for it.
I did not give CUET. Some of my batchmates did give CUET. And
Yeah.
our batch was very different. You know, CUET, they keep postponing the dates, extending the dates, centers are not working. It was very hodgepodge during our time.
Everybody is like, क्या होगा? Because nobody knows
Yeah,
about the exam. It's
yeah,
taking place for the
exactly.
very first time. So it's
Yeah,
very unpredictable. I remember we Hitbullseye, our team, we went the first slot that we had for the exam. So we went outside one of the exam centers and we were interviewing people, the students there, because it was the first exam ever. So all of them
yeah.
were like, ma'am, they are paper, पता नहीं कैसा होगा because nobody knew. And they were
Yeah,
very surprised because the exam was very easy, very,
yeah.
very easy, right? So even now, when the CVT exam is going on, even currently, the exam is from easy to moderate in majority of the slots, right?
Okay.
So that is also something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about sections now, Sukhjot. I would want to know your section-wise strategy. Okay, we have a question here. Let's take that question up first. So we have legend something asking a question. Can I switch between the sections in IPMAT Indore exam?
I don't think you're allowed to. As far as I remember, you're not allowed to switch between the
Yeah,
sections.
you can't. I mean,
Yeah,
there is no sectional timing though, but then
yeah,
you don't have the leverage to switch between the sections. Your section khula,
yeah.
you have to complete that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I hope that answers your question, right? Anybody else who has any questions or queries, please feel free to post in the comment section. We'll take it up really soon. Okay, so let's talk about sections now. Let's begin with the aloo of all the exams. हर जगह पाया जाता, that is English. कोई भी exam English जरूर होता है,
Yeah.
right? So what was your strategy preparing for the verbal section? First of all, let's talk about Indore.
Okay. So I think verbal section, while people usually give it lesser importance, I tend to give it the most important in terms of what's going to make or break yours.
Mhm.
Because math can be improved a bit easily, I think, as compared to your English skills. You know, it takes time to improve your English. It takes time to improve your grammar. So
Mhm.
some people it comes naturally, some people it doesn't. And especially because I've seen students who've done brilliantly well in quant, but they missed the sectional cutoffs in the verbal section. You know, you've
Mhm.
got sectional cutoffs in Indore, so you have to be good in everything. So
Mhm.
as far as English goes, you know, you have to keep. So I think vocabulary becomes a very key part. You have to be aware of the words, not only if they, even if they don't ask you directly in terms of reading comprehension or just the sentences, you need to be able to figure out what the examiner is actually asking you. So you have
Mhm.
to be up to date with your vocabulary, whether it is through word banks or reading books, newspapers, magazines, whatever your source may be for increasing your word bank. I think that's very crucial. You have to do that. Apart from that, practice as well. I mean, you've got enough sentence completion and enough of these questions are available everywhere. You know, you can do these. So that is what something that improves your English in general as well, and in specifically targeting the verbal section as well.
Right. So if I talk about you, you spoke about vocab building. How did you do it for yourself? Did you read a lot or did you jot down difficult words? What was your
Yeah.
strategy?
So basically, for me, I'm usually very into reading. You know, I've been reading books since a very young age. So that was just the strategy for me. One thing I did do consciously was try to expand my horizon. So if I was reading only fiction, I started reading some non-fiction and explore
Mm-hmm.
the genres of books because that introduces you to new words. If you keep reading the same fantasy series again and again, you will not get any new words. So you've got to read different kinds of books. Essays can be a very great source, I think. They help you with your general knowledge as well, which will be useful for your interviews later on. And you being up to date with the world is very important. So essays, newspapers can be a good source.
Right. The other advantage of reading non-fiction is that it helps you with your RCs also. Like I've
Yeah,
spoken about it in the previous session also when I was a student and when I was preparing for these entrances. the major problem that I had with RCs is I am from a commerce background, right? So I am more inclined towards topics from economics or business or something like that, right? So if I ever have an RC which is, let's say, from biology, so that would absolutely disinterest me because that is not something that I'm interested in. But then when you're reading articles from different genres, from different fields, you get familiarized, right? So when you're interested in solving an RC, it becomes even easier. That's what I personally feel, right? So reading nonfiction helps you with that also. And I think somewhere it helps you for the PI round as well. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
Because they have questions coming up from anywhere.
Yeah.
So it can
They
help
can
you.
ask you literally anything.
Yeah.
For the interview round, they will ask you anything just to put you on the spot. They can ask you anything. Yeah.
Right. So I think your strategy for all these three exams, that is GIPMAT, IPMAT Rohtak, Indore, for verbal has to be similar, right? Because I think English level is similar for all these three exams, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk
If,
about quant. Yeah, please add. Please
if
tell.
anything, Indore usually has the toughest English out of all of these. And that goes for any section actually.
Yeah.
Indore usually has a tougher thing.
But then Indore, all the sections are difficult as compared to
Yeah.
Rohtak and GIPMAT.
Yeah,
They have some other
exactly.
level only.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
But I think the main part is sectional cutoffs. People don't pay attention to that. Yeah. I know PCM students who are in Rohtak right now, and they've done brilliantly well in their quants for Indore, but they missed the sectional cutoff for verbal. So you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
If it is your weakness, own it.
You have to be equally good in all the three sections. That's very important.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about quant now. When I was in school, I hated math. That is why I did not have math in 11th and 12th because I don't know. It's like we never agreed on the same thing or something like that. So I was like absolutely disgusted with the subject. So I can understand for the people who are, who are from the same mindset, like understand their feeling about math, right? So what was your strategy? I would specifically want to talk about Indore first because Indore's math is like very superlative as compared to other two, right? And of course, you have a section in subjective, you have a section in objective, right? So, however, for subjective, we do not have any negative marking, correct? We have only for objective, but still, what was the strategy for the quant section?
All right. So I'll give you my preparation strategy and my attempting strategy as well.
Sure.
All right. So as far as quants go, I think I had it a bit easier given my background in PCM. A non-math student would obviously have it a lot more difficult as compared to me. The most important key here is practice. So what we have a tendency is we'll see the question, we'll say ye to aata hai, and then we'll just move on to the next question while revising or stuff, right? So your key has to be you have to practice the same question multiple times because the exam stress will make you forget everything that you know, right? So unless you have written that question down, you practice it multiply. I'm talking about writing here. Don't just let it be in your mind. Write it down, solve it properly with all the steps, and that is only how you'll be able to solve it in the exam. Another tendency that we have is we forget the calculation part. We write the formula and we're like, finish. We know this. We don't even calculate during our practice time. And when you're that the time management you have to keep in mind. So it becomes important. You have to be fast with your calculation. So when you're solving a sum, do it properly, get the final answer. Don't just substitute the values in the formula and let it be. As far as the preparation goes, that is what I say. And while attempting, I think the subjective one, attempt everything, obviously. No negative marking, attempt everything, take a guess, whatever you want to do, however much you can do, take a guess. And what another important thing for quant section is that usually people say, don't get stuck with the question. You don't have to spend too much time on the question. If you're not getting it, you have to move on. I'll agree to that, but I'll also say spend at least 30 seconds on a question. Because sometimes what happens is the question is very lengthy. It's a huge question, but inside of it, there's nothing. It's very simple. I've seen that happen multiple times. So at least read the question properly. Think about it for 30 seconds. Who know, you might just get the answer, right? Don't just say, too many values here, too much of a complicated formula, trigonometry aa gaya, chhod dete. No, that's not what you want to do.
Right. True. Okay. So I would also want to know what did you also like invest your time in learning the tricks and the shortcuts for the calculation, or did you do it like the usual way that we does?
So as far as for calculation, I usually did it the normal way. Frankly, I was used to that. And, I had developed some speed in calculation preparing for engineering as well. So I was confident that my calculation would be up to par.
True. And did you have the same strategy for IPMAT Rohtak as well for the quant section?
Yeah, the strategy was similar for the quant section.
Okay, great. We have a lot of questions. Okay, let's take up the questions first. We'll come to the 3 week. Okay, so the agenda for the session, Subjot, is a 3 week strategy for IPMAT Indore. So all the people who are listening to us right now, they might have their exam on 16th of June for IPMAT Indore.
Okay.
So what I mean, I'm pretty sure they would have already completed their syllabus at least once.
Yeah.
What I would presume, right? If not, first of all, let's talk about the strategy for the people who have already completed their syllabus once. They have gone through all the topics, they have solved all the questions at least once.
Yeah.
So, what should be the strategy now, 3 weeks before the exam?
It obviously has to be give enough mocks. You
Okay.
cannot stress the importance of mocks anymore in any competitive exam, not just indoor, any competitive exams. You have to give mocks, and you have to put yourself in the exam sort of environment. So if you're giving mocks, sit at a table and keep all the distractions away. You should not be looking at your phone. You should not be sitting up, doing something else and coming back, because that is not what will happen in the exam, right?
True.
Exam, you'll be sitting in the same chair for the entire duration. Right? So you have to do that. You can give 1 or 2 mocks max. I don't suggest giving more than 2 mocks a day. And it is not only important to give mocks, but to analyze them properly. So after every mock, look at the questions wrong, the questions you've done, the mistakes you've made, and see if you can do them again. So I'll give some of my tips that my coaching sir taught me in JEE. So the point, if you were not able to solve a question in the exam, you take it and you solve it without the time duration. See if you're able to solve it then. And that is maybe something you can work, if for that particular topic, then something that you have to work on is speed. Your concepts are clear, but you have to work on the speed. That is something that you can do. Another thing is that while you're giving your mocks, what is the best time to give your mocks? I'd say the best time is the time you'll be actually giving the exam. So if the slot of the exam is from 12 to say 2 or 12 to say 3, whatever, the best time to give your mock is also that time. Because I think we all have a tendency of falling asleep in the afternoon, napping a bit, yawning a bit. So it can definitely help with that. Your brain gets used to working during that time.
Right. That's a very valuable trip, and that's something I'm hearing for the very first time. Like I've heard people saying कि अगर आपका exam CBT mode में है तो आपको CBT mode में ही mocks देने चाहिए. But the time I'm hearing for the very first time.
Yeah.
That's a good tip, and I hope people out there use the trick that way.
Hopefully.
Okay, so let's talk about the people now, Sukhjot, who were, because of some reason, did not manage to complete their syllabus entirely as of now. And let's say that they have completed 70% or 60% of the syllabus by now for math.
Okay.
Right, and we know that there are 3 weeks left for the exam. So, what should their strategy be? What their outlook should be?
So I think even these people, right, as while they are completing the syllabus, they can also try to give the mocks. Because you have to give enough time to get into that mode of giving exam in a proper environment. So enough amount of mocks is key. So even if you haven't completed the entire syllabus, it's not a big issue. You can attempt the verbal section completely. I think verbal section should not be a problem. In the quant section, just attempt the questions. The one you have prepared for, the subjects, the part you've already covered, and look at your accuracy. Don't look at your overall grade for quant if you haven't completed the syllabus. Look at your accuracy. So if you're able to maintain a high accuracy, it should be fine.
Okay. So focus on the accuracy as of now.
Yeah.
Okay. There's another question now. The person is asking, what are the important topics in higher math for the exam?
So I think higher math, as far as you go, trigonometry is something that I always stress upon, because trigonometry is something that they can insert in any question. It does not have to be a pure trigonometry question. They can insert it with join it with any other topic, and trigonometry becomes important everywhere else. And the common formulas, they are used across the questions. So you must be thorough with the formulas. I remember this because I got my trigo questions wrong in IPMAT Indore.
Okay.
So I still remember. Yeah.
Learning from the mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question is, what could be the cutoff of IPMAT Indore this year?
So I think I'm really not sure. I haven't analyzed the previous year paper, the scores of the previous year paper. I think it was 175 last year, if I'm not wrong.
Around that, yeah.
Yeah. So I think the score will obviously increase. It keeps on increasing year on year, and same should happen this year as well. If I were to take a guess, I think around 185, 190 maybe should be safe for a baseline. Obviously, you should be scoring above 200, because this will count at the end as well, right?
True.
Anything above 200, 220 is good.
I also feel it depends on the level of the exam. No, see if the
Yeah,
exam is very difficult, so the cutoff would be
yeah,
very low. But if the exam is very easy, the cutoff would be very. So it's a very inversely related
yeah,
relationship,
exactly. Yeah,
right? So what we can do as of now is focus on giving your best attempt. Focus on that
yeah.
as of now. Don't worry about the cutoffs. Let that come when the result comes out, and
Broader
give
tip
your
here,
yeah,
don't
please.
focus so much on the cutoff. You just have to give your best. You have to remain positive throughout the entire duration. The
True,
moment the negativity comes in, your scores will fall and bad stuff will happen, right? So you have to
true.
keep positive. It's no, you don't have to care about the cutoffs. Obviously the best will happen as long as you give your best.
And then, of course, it's not just the cutoff, right? It's your performance in the PI round also, and a lot of other factors also that are compiled together for the overall admissions, right? So, right now, focus on giving your best, focus on your strengths, let go of your weaknesses, focus on the strengths, and accordingly make your strategy. Don't worry about the cutoffs, right? Okay, the another question is there a sequence in which we have to attempt the exam?
Uh, I don't remember actually if
I don't
there was a
think there is.
sequence.
I mean, I think it would start from the verbal part, and then I
Okay.
think then you have reasoning, and then you have quant. For Rohtak, it was like that. For Indore,
Yeah.
because you're going to have two sections of quant, so I think
Yeah.
it's subjective
I think
first.
yeah, it started with subjective, then
Yeah,
objective, then verbal. Because I
then
remember
verbal.
giving verbal at the last. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what it is. Okay, so I think those were the questions as of now. Let's wait for some more questions. In the meantime, let's talk about logical reasoning. So logical reasoning is there only for the GIPMAT exam, right? And
Yeah.
GIPMAT is just upcoming. So, and of course, you would have studied logical reasoning for IPMAT Rohtak, correct?
Yeah.
So logical reasoning, I feel, is one such subject that any student at an undergraduate level is absolutely alien to. Until unless you've
Yeah.
prepared for Olympiads or something like that, I don't think
Yeah.
you've
Yeah. Yeah.
gotten a chance of studying coding, decoding, or blood relations, or sitting
Yeah.
arrangements,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
topics like those. So, what was your strategy for logical reasoning? How did you first of all begin with the preparations for the same?
So I was one of the students who was preparing for Olympiad. So I mean, I already knew about blood relations and all that. And I think logical reasoning, it is not a very concept heavy subject, right? There is no
Mhm.
concepts as such to speak of.
Right.
The key word in logical reasoning, all the questions is patterns, right?
Mhm.
So soon as you solve enough type of questions in blood relations, you'll eventually just figure out the pattern in your brain.
True.
I've given these 3, 4 subjects. Here's what I have to do. It becomes a
True.
sequence in your mind. Draw this map, draw these lines, and that's how you do. So I think you have to
Mhm.
practice different type of questions. Take them from
Mhm.
various sources and practice all the different type of questions for coding, decoding, for series progression, whatever it is. You should be aware. Some of the tips or tricks, follow whatever your teachers have told you for logical reasoning. These are the sort of patterns that you can observe. Keep that in mind. It really helps. So even if you have a lot of confidence in logical reasoning, keep in mind. So as far as series progression goes, they can be addition, it can be squares. These are the sort of series that you can see.
True. Another very common, I mean, for logical reasoning, even if some students ask us for the same, the suggestion is practice only because it's a practical
Yeah,
subject and like English, you do not have a formula in here. The more
yeah,
you practice, the better you will know about the exam. And of course, I feel in all of the exams that you have a negative marking, you need to have a very proper strategy to appear for the exam because
yeah,
of course you won't be attempting a question until unless you're 100% accurate about the answer. That's how it goes, otherwise you're going to lose all of your marks in the negative marking only, right? So I think that accuracy, especially for logical reasoning, comes from solving as many questions as possible.
yeah,
Because let's say if I talk about sitting arrangement, so for sitting arrangement you have really easy questions also, then you have really difficult questions also. And the special thing about reasoning is that इसमें दो तीन concepts मिलके आ जाते हैं. For example, at times in sitting arrangement, you have directions also, and then you have
yeah,
relations
exactly.
also. So it becomes
Yeah,
very complicated, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
the
yeah.
more questions you solve and as you escalate in the difficulty level, the better I think
Yeah.
your performance will be, right? So Jyot,
Yeah, I completely agree. Because these are sort of questions that can sort of scare you. What am I supposed to do? These people are sitting here, they're facing that direction. So you must be aware of what can come. It can seem very alien to somebody who's not prepared for it properly.
right, right. Okay, so we have another query. Pari is here. Pari is asking how to prepare for higher math when you are a student of applied mathematics.
Student of applied mathematics. So I think so I'm sure these are guys have covered some of the basic math of 11, 12. There is
Mhm.
some overlap in the syllabus between
Mhm.
mathematics and applied mathematics. And you've got to start from the base then, obviously. If you've done trigonometry, focus on that. Maybe do not take up if it is, I think if it is very difficult for you, maybe you can ignore integral calculus or something like that. If that is something completely alien to you and you're starting right now. So you might not be able to get it done. So it is better to focus on your strengths. You must have done more of statistics and stuff like that compared to the math guys. So you can focus on that maybe.
Right. And anyway, I mean, it's a very common query that we get is, ma'am, मेरे पास 12th में math नहीं था, तो मैं कैसे तैयारी करूँ IPMAT की? So the answer is negative marking, because you have negative markings, you have the pleasure and the authority maybe to skip some questions that you've not really
Yeah,
prepared for. So that
yeah,
can be a
exactly.
strategy. For example, even if I would have studied trigonometry, however, I did not have higher math, right? But I studied a little bit of trigonometry in 10th class, and it is a very complicated kind of a topic, right? So even if I would have studied trigonometry in my 11th and 12th class, if I were appearing for IPMAT exam, I would have skipped the questions because
Yeah.
I know my aptitude is not, I'm not that good in the concept. So I would rather go for topics like algebra or maybe a little
Yeah.
bit of geometry or quadratic equations that fall in my bandwidth of intelligence, maybe
Yeah.
like that,
I think that is
right?
personal for every student. You all
True,
have topics that you're good at and topics that you're not so good at. So
true.
focus in the last days, focus on what you're good at and in the exam as well.
Yeah, that's the reason why everybody's strategies are very different. No, like for
Yeah,
example, me,
exactly.
I would have, like, I have a phobia for trigonometry. For example, somebody else would have the same for geometry because they're not
Yeah.
really good at learning formulas or something like that. So it has to vary, and that is something that you have to discover for yourself, and that is how you make your strategy for all these competitive exams out there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now I would want to shift the focus. I hope everybody is clear with what your strategy should be right now, 3 weeks before the exam, is mocks. Mocks, and mocks. And I repeatedly repeated in all my sessions that I've conducted before is the relevance of mocks. A very common, again, yet another very common mistake that a lot of students make is that they do not appear for mocks, or they maybe start appearing for mocks a month prior to their exam or 2 weeks prior to their exam, which is a very, very wrong approach, for a couple of reasons. The first reason is because, of course, you're not going to perform absolutely well in the very first mock. So that acts as a source of demotivation. कह रहे मैंने तो कुछ पढ़ा ही नहीं है, मैंने the time waste किया. You have that kind of a mindset that affects your overall preparation. Correct. The second thing is, you are not really aware about the syllabus. Like we had a question here कि मैम पैटर्न कैसा होता है, how do you start, और एग्जाम कौन से सेक्शन से स्टार्ट होता है. जब आप मॉक्स देते हो, यू गेट एन आइडिया कि कौन सा सेक्शन पहले है, कौन कौन से क्वेश्चन ज्यादा आते हैं. फॉर दैट मैटर यू कैन ऑल्सो रेफर टू द प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन ऑल्सो, दैट वुड ऑल्सो वर्क, right? So the reason why I started this is I would want Sukhjot you, because you are the star for the students today, because they've made it to the other end, right? So that they might
Hmm.
listen to you and not to me for that matter. So please tell us, what are some of the very important advantages of appearing for mocks.
All right. So like as you said, the first part is you get used to the type of questions that are going to come in the exam,
True.
right? You need to be aware. So reading the fact that its topics say these many questions are going to come does not help you that much. Then actually
Mhm.
giving the 4 5 mocks and observing
Mhm.
that geometry is a lot of questions are coming for geometry or whatever topic, and
Mhm.
you yourself develop a sort of sense inside you. I'm not able to answer this many questions from this particular topic, or I'm taking too much time in my calculations. I'm taking too much time in your trigonometry. So that is one important thing. And second, you obviously have to analyze your mocks properly. You have to make sure that your score, as you progress, your score has to keep on increasing. It should not fluctuate. If it's fluctuating, then there's a problem, right? The score in your mocks should keep on increasing. It should not decrease or it should not fluctuate as well. And you've got to keep analyzing your mocks thoroughly. Which section you scored the most, which section did you score the least? Why is that? You've got to shore up your weaknesses and while also focusing on your strengths. Another important thing I think is time management. A lot of these people, you can solve the questions if they give you 10 minutes. You can try multiple methods and whatever you want to do with the question, and even if it's luck, you'll get the answer. But in the exam scenario where you only have like 1 minute for a question, it is important to manage your time effectively. And that can only come through mocks. There is no other option for that. As you keep giving on mocks, automatically you'll get a feeling. I'm not gonna get this question. Let me move on to the next question. So time management is the crucial part.
True, true. So a couple of things to get covered through the mocks, as Subjot said. So 3 weeks before the exam, start appearing for mocks. Give full length mocks, not just concept mocks, but
Yeah.
full length mocks, right? And then work on your time management. Make sure that you're not spending a lot of time on just one section and distributing your time equally throughout the 3 sections. Because, like Subjot earlier mentioned, you have to not only qualify the overall cutoffs, but the sectional cutoffs as well, right? Okay, let's talk about another very important aspect about the IPMAT exam. So, as most of you, and I believe all of you would know, that your IPMAT exam, whether for Rohtak or for Indore, is followed by a PI round. That's personal interview, right? So, Subjot, please share your experience about your PI rounds.
Uh, all right. So I gave both interviews, interview for Rohtak and Indore as well. Right. So Rohtak, what they did in our year was the first thing that you ask you is an extempore question. So you come
Mhm.
in. I was not even asked to introduce myself. I was just given a topic and said that you have 30 seconds to prepare and you have to start speaking when I tell you to. And so my topic was the importance of sports in management. And
Mhm.
that was really good topic for me because I have played sports all throughout my life. And
Mhm.
luckily, again, in a mock interview that I had given, just the day before, I was asked the same question, the
Mhm.
importance of sports in management. So that was very
Mhm.
lucky for me as far as Rohtak goes. Now,
Uh-huh.
there is a few differences between the Rohtak and Indore PI, I would say, is that Indore focuses a lot more on your past academics. So, whatever subjects you had in 11th and 12th, Indore tends to focus a bit more on asking questions from your subject domain. So, I
Mhm.
remember I was asked a lot of questions from organic chemistry specifically during my Indore interview.
Mhm.
And while my Rohtak interview is more towards general knowledge about rivers, cities, where I'm from, the population of my city, the layout of my city, the MP,
Mhm.
MLAs, stuff like that. And
Mhm.
GK becomes important here, both the current affairs and the static GK. You must be
Mhm.
aware of the President of India, the Prime Minister of India, and all these general stuff. The
Mhm.
number of seats from Lok Sabha in your state, the number of seats in your legislative assembly. Some of the
Mhm.
static affairs questions that they can ask. And you must be aware of what is going around in the world. Which leader is coming to India. What is happening, which sports event is going on. All of these you must be up to date with.
True. And what was your strategy appearing for preparing for the PI round? Did you read the newspaper regularly, or did you prepare yourself smartly to answer the questions so that you're ready for cross questioning? What was your outlook towards the interview? Because it would be something that is very new to you, because a person who is
Yeah.
just past 12th standard appearing for that level of an interview, especially for IIM Indore, it's a privilege. At the same time, it's a huge responsibility and a lot of pressure, because you have not appeared for an interview like that before in your life.
Yeah.
At master's level, it's a different thing because you have a little bit of an exposure, right? So, what was your outlook towards the interviews?
So few things I did. First, you must be aware of where you're from. Exactly. You must
Mhm.
know everything about your city, everything about your state.
Mhm.
They asked me the tourist places in Chandigarh. If they would
Okay.
come here, the tourist places in Chandigarh. So they can ask anything about your city. You must be aware of everything about your city.
Mhm.
And like
Mhm.
I lived the majority of my life in Bombay, so they asked me about Bombay as well. So if you're
Mhm.
someone who has kept moving around, you have a lot more to learn there. If you're
True.
somebody who's stayed in multiple places, you have a lot more to learn.
Mhm.
Apart from that, I'd say I did read the newspaper regularly. That's a good
Mhm.
habit apart from all of this as well, but we'll not go into that. Just from the exam point of view, it does two things. It improves your vocabulary and helps you prepare for the PI interview as well.
Mhm.
And once you're actually aware of all that is happening around you, you become a lot more confident. Right? You're able
Mhm.
to answer everything a lot more confidently.
Mhm.
These are some of the things that I did. I also, for Indore specifically, I prepared my past academics as well because I had been told that they do focus on past academics. So, I read my 11th and 12th books again. And one last thing that I did was that some of the standard questions, introduce yourself, strengths, weaknesses? Why should we take you? Why should we not take you? All of these generic questions, have a proper answer prepared for that.
True.
You don't need to remember that answer word to word, because then if you say that word to word, it looks a bit too mechanical and the
Yeah.
interviewer can spot it. But
Right.
have some key points that these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, and build your answer around that on the spot.
Right, right. And also at times it has happened that people have a tendency to lie or maybe say something that they are not
Yeah,
really honest about, and they're very good at catching you doing that. Like,
yeah,
for example, a student or somebody said about something about cricket, that,
yeah,
I play cricket as a hobby. So they would have a lot of cross questioning about cricket, about the IPL or what are the different
yeah,
formats.
exactly.
So you need to be like thorough and very, very
Yeah.
careful as to what are you answering, because you can be cross questioned on the same thing, right?
So it's a double-edged sword. If you're
Yeah.
very confident about your topic, go towards that way. Like I
Mhm.
knew I was confident about cricket, about geopolitics, so I moved the conversation toward that direction.
True.
That is how your answers should be. Another small
Right.
tip I can give, I did not do this, but some of my friends did. If you have an extracurricular or some of your hobby that you're actually very good at, make sure to display it. Now, how can you
Mhm.
do that? So, for example, if you're sitting for an interview like this, and if you play the guitar, just keep a guitar right beside it. All
Uh-huh.
right. 50% or 80%, the question's gonna come is, do you play the guitar? And
Uh-huh.
then you get the chance to actually show it. If you paint a lot, just keep a painting right beside you or sit in front of something that you've painted. Just lead the conversation where you want it to.
That's
That
smart,
is
yeah.
something you can do.
Good. That's really smart. Okay, so we have a last question. Will a high score in verbal offset a smaller score in quant, or could this be used as a strategy?
So I mean, as long as you're clearing the sectional cutoffs, I think, yeah, it is a weighted score, right? 25% short answer, 25% objective, and 50% verbal. Right,
Mm-hmm.
that is how far I go. So I calculated all of this properly, बैठ के maths करके कि which section is most important. I don't remember that now, but
Mm-hmm.
I think for me specifically, you a higher score in verbal does help, because I'll tell you why. Because usually I believe that not a lot of people score higher in verbal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Verbal is something that a lot of people just very clear the cutoff. So if got
Mm-hmm.
something like 140 or 145 in verbal, that should
Mm-hmm.
really help you,
Mm-hmm.
because your score will be calculated compared to the topper score in IIM
True.
Indore, if I'm not wrong, right? So
Yeah,
that is
give
something you can look for.
percentiles. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for quant, I'm sure objective section, there's going to be somebody that scores full. There
Yeah.
always is. Or maybe
Yeah.
just one mistake, right? But that hardly ever happens with verbal. Out of 180, 170 might even be the highest. You never know, right?
Uh-huh.
165. So that is something you can look forward to.
Right. Okay, so enough of the questions with you, Sukhjot. Now that you have made it to one of
Yeah.
the best B schools in our country, to IIM Rohtak, right, and you are on the other side, how does it feel? What is your schedule? Is it all that you expected or dreamed of, or is it like a really hard work? What is your life now? How is your life?
Uh, I mean, nothing is never whatever you expected, right? There's
Uh-huh.
always gonna be differences. So you have
Uh-huh.
to keep that in mind.
Uh-huh.
The schedule, as far as we go, it keeps on changing. Some of the days we have just one class, zero classes. Some of the days we have five classes back to back. So the day is packed, and it really depends on how much you want to do. So if you've taken three courses upon yourself and an online internship, and the exams are coming, obviously you're gonna have loads of work to do. But
True.
then you see people around you doing all of that
True.
because they're just that good, right?
Mhm.
Everybody is handling three things at once. And
True.
academics is just the base of that. Once you come in, you'll realize that apart from academics, everybody has at least one thing they've excelled at.
Mhm.
Somebody is national level in this sport. Somebody is, done Kathak for 8 years. Somebody is an extremely superb guitarist. So
Mhm.
you have to, and it's so much opportunities to learn everywhere. If you want to
True.
learn programming, there's somebody who's done it for 2 years. If you want to learn guitar, there's somebody who's doing it for 10 years. If you
True.
want to learn photography, there's somebody who's done five courses in that.
Yeah.
So that's what the best part is, the students.
Right. You have that kind of a surrounding, that kind of peers,
Yeah,
that class of peers, if I put it that way. Right. Okay. So I think we're almost towards the end of the session, Sukhjot. I would really like to thank you to take out time and be with us here today and guide all these students out there. And I hope all of your
my
queries
pleasure.
are answered, all you people out there, right? So, Sukhjot,
Yeah.
any last words, any parting words to all our audiences right now, and
I
maybe
would
we'll watch the session later. Any last comments, please?
Yeah. So first of all, my pleasure being here. Guiding you guys is obviously something I've been looking forward to. And I think, like I said, be positive, right? Things will happen. Your scores will go down maybe a bit in the mocks. Sometimes you're just not able to solve that question. The key is to remain positive and get a good night's sleep every day. Do not mess up your sleep schedule. I messed up my sleep schedule. Do not do that at all. You should not be sleeping at 2, 3 in the morning. You should be sleeping at a proper time, getting up at a proper time. Have a good diet, have a healthy diet, and go do have some physical activity in your day. Go out, play, go to the gym, whatever you want to do, and be positive. Everything will work out just fine. And if you have any other queries, obviously, they can reach out to you. You're always there. Or they can connect with me on LinkedIn as well, whatever.
Okay, thank you so much, Sujot. We wish you
Thank you
all
so
the
much for
very
having me.
best in your future endeavors. We hope you touch the skies of success and do really well in your life, right? And all you people out there watching the session, if you found this session to be fruitful, please don't forget to like the video, share it amongst your friends so that even they get a little help, because sharing is caring, right? And do subscribe to our channel. We have another channel exclusively for CUET as well, named Hitbullseye CUET. So go subscribe it if you're somebody who's a CUET aspirant, and do subscribe to Hitbullseye channel right here for any further update or such upcoming sessions that will prove absolutely fruitful for you, right? All the very best for your exam, for the ChipMAT exam, for the IPMAT exam, and stay tuned for future such sessions, and all the very best. Have a good evening, have a good night, and a very amazing weekend. Bye bye. Okay, so Jyot, thank you so much. It was a great session. I hope you enjoyed.
Yeah, ma'am, definitely.
Chalo, I will stay in touch for any future
Yeah,
collaborations, right?
for sure, ma'am.
All
Thank you.
right. Bye
Thank you for
bye.
having me. Bye, ma'am.